Hello, this is First Fire Non-Assault Move. Welcome back to the 31st video in the War in the East series. Let's get a situation report. It is now the first week of August. That means the summer is winding down. We will have less turns for offensive operations as mud starts to appear in September and definitely in October. So we have to get as much as we can done in the next 4 to 6 turns. Let's start with Army Group North. No change along this front. Both sides are digging in. You can see the defensive values we have with our infantry. No threat whatsoever from Soviet forces that are presenting here to the north of us. Moving further south along the Pskov front, we've made some attacks and we've made no headway. The Soviets defended beautifully. The Germans attacked multiple times and achieved no gains territorially or getting an advantage in the combat resolutions as far as causing casualties on the Soviets. Moving further south along the Pskov to Velikai Luki sector of the front, no change, just moving adjacent to the Soviets as they withdraw. We made that one attack. Further south, just north of Smolensk and Vitebsk, where there was that cavalry corps that stuck its neck out, and it was right here. We routed that cavalry division. So our lines are pretty well dressed here. Not too concerned. By eliminating the Soviet forces in this pocket, it's going to reduce the Soviet troop concentration buildup that we see week after week in this part of the front. So that's going to help us out later on when the Soviets start to what we predict to be a winter offensive of their own. But the Germans will no longer be governed by the 1941 Winter Special Rule. I don't anticipate that the Germans will be as debilitated as they were in 1941. We should be on even footing with the Russians in winter, now that we've had that grueling winter behind us and the lessons learned a whole year to rush winter supplies and equipment, use those lessons learned to our advantage. So it should be, I'm hoping it's going to be equal footing for the Germans. 57th Panzer Corps has regrouped around Smolensk, and we've set up our defensive line just north of Smolensk. We will address this a little more once our attacking infantry divisions recover from their efforts closing out the pocket and destroying the Soviets. We did not have any reinforcements, so I took advantage of our rail capacity to shuffle some forces behind our own front. That included troops from the 6th Corps, which railed all the way down here. These divisions have been reassigned to new Corps headquarters and will contribute to the fighting that's taking place down in Army Group South's area of operations. It's not the Panzer Corps and the Infantry Corps I want to have down there, a complete Infantry Corps and a Panzer Corps. That's going to happen, but that's a start right now with those two infantry divisions. This bend in the front with Army Group Center's area of operations from Smolensk to Bryansk, no change. The Germans are very strong in this part of the front. I don't fear any Soviet attacks whatsoever. In fact, we are in a little better position than Soviets are as far as combat power goes. So we might start making some attacks just so the Soviets don't get too comfortable. Because offensive operations will be entirely in the south for the rest of 1942. Local counterattacks, maybe with 30th Panzer and 57th Panzer, should the Soviets again get aggressive around Smolensk, and they can easily shift down here, the more center location of Army Group Center, north of Bryansk. So from Smolensk to Bryansk, we have the 57th and 30th Panzer as a quick reaction force, more or less. Moving a little further south around the Bryansk area of operations, we have a front starting to form as well, a main line of resistance, very similar to we have in Army Group North and Army Group Center. And moving further south, Here, we get a look at what front looks like now after we have destroyed the Soviets in this southern pocket. After the conclusion of destroying the Soviets in this pocket, we started to shift our forces further south as best we could with whatever moving points were left to us, and we used economy of force to destroy the Soviets, so we only tied up a few infantry divisions. We did not commit any of our armor to the attack in the pocket, and we didn't attack at all along this part of the front. You can see that there are no longer forces in and around Sumy. They're not adjacent to Sumy anymore. Those were our two Panzer Corps. The divisions of those two Panzer Corps, we have withdrawn them. We are trying to keep the Soviets off balance. The Soviets were anticipating us to attack. We are no longer there. We have shifted south once again. Look at the buildup we have here. Finally got across the Sula, where the Soviets have been defending along that bend of the Sula. We got that bridgehead maybe 2 weeks ago. So it's been greatly expanded, as you can see. We forced as many of our divisions over the Sula as we could, pushing to the max, draining fuel, exhausting our infantry, but now we have a sizable force well over the Sula, posing a threat to what I hope to be our next encirclement, maybe even a grand one. Germans are limited, though, to only one legitimate pincer to the north. Any attack here to the south is facing very strong Soviet resistance, and we just don't have the forces to really dent this. What I would like to do is potentially just reach the Dnieper banks to the west here, and if we can do all the work with a northernmost pincer reaching all the way down to the east bank of the Dnieper, might be able to seal off a sizable amount of Soviet formations. That is the next plan. If we can't grab all of these Soviet formations, we'll at least try to get as many as we can, meanwhile threatening Poltava, and at last, maybe threatening Kharkov. No change along the west bank of the Sula with our Hungarians stringing the German divisions. Chikazi sector, no change here as well. Germans just moving up adjacent to the Soviets as they withdraw. And around Kirovo Grad and Kirovo Rog, still the 3rd Panzer Corps and 11th Army forces duke it out with the Soviets, made some more attacks, mostly south of the strongest concentration of the Soviets, just to break out around Nikolaev and threaten maybe getting to the Crimea. There's less Soviets here to the south, and if we can push north and east with the 11th Army, the Soviets are strong. So we're just doing large concentrated attacks on a couple of hexes at a time each week. And we're getting good combat resolutions out of it, but territorial gains, not much to speak of, and really not damaging Soviets very well here in the south. We're still waiting for our forces, all that combat power to the north, to make its way to the south. Not all of these forces are going to go all the way down to Kirovo Rog and Kirovograd, but some of them will. At least a full infantry corps of 4 to 5 divisions and a panzer corps of 3 to 4 panzer divisions. That will be after we attempt this encirclement. So they may only reach Army Group South's area of operations when later September, into later September and maybe early October. At that point, they might not be able to do very much due to poor weather conditions. So that's a summary of the turn, the German moves and attacks. Taking a grand view of the front, we've pulled back around Smolensk again, ready to counterattack. We have the 57th Panzer Corps and the 30th Panzer Corps as a quick reaction force here. Our main combat power, the Panzer Corps and Infantry Corps that we pulled out of our axis of advance around the Asma, have now made it all the way here, and after finishing off a decent-sized pocket in the south, we have now broken over the Sula and are very well positioned to get sizable encirclement. But that will be based on how the Soviets react once they see these forces here to the north looming over them. I'm imagining that they're going to start pulling back and surrendering the east bank of the Sula here along the sector. I don't think I missed any threats posed to our German forces. Most likely we'll just experience localized attacks as we have in the past with the Soviets during their turn, where they can mass up and 12 divisions along a small part of the front. I do expect them to attack back around Kirovo-Grad, Kirovo-Rog, and potentially still attack north of Smolensk, where they have those strong forces. Unfortunately, they're pulling back. Doggone it. They have a sixth sense, I'm telling you. The Soviets... Stavka was not as forgiving and lenient and flexible as we are seeing the Soviets here, giving massive patches of ground the very hint of an encirclement. Oh man, doggone it. I think we were a little too successful to the north. We should have been a little less obvious and exploited and did it all in one turn. I wonder how many will be even available to us. That's ridiculous. Like, every single, down to platoon level, got the order to immediately retreat at all speed. Oh, God. Good hold there, good hold. It's been hard to surround the Soviets. Even from the early going, they just retreat at great speed. Good hold. Didn't expect them to attack there. Just looking, we can see that what Soviet forces, they're revealed to us, and we really should be able to see this. Look at the forces we put in the Soviet. Doggone it. I am bummed about that. As I was executing the turn, the moves, and the attacks with that bridgehead over the Sula, I was thinking, should we make it so obvious? Pull back just a little bit so that it won't alarm the Soviets? Thinking to myself right now, looking at this front, Petrovsk, all the way down to the Crimea, imagine getting behind these Soviet forces. That would be a debilitating blow to them, for sure. Oh. Well, we've had the initiative. The Soviets have not been able to really do anything After the mud finally cleared during our offensive operations, they just have been completely reacting to us, not initiating. I'm immediately going to go look and do an aerial recon and see how many got away. I was getting a little greedy. I thought I can encircle that entire part of the front. Maybe we'll only be able to get another dozen or so. Very, very small loss to the pyramids by comparison to other weeks. Meanwhile, Soviets lost other 200 tanks. 6,200,000. Oh, I meant to point that out earlier. We have eclipsed 6 million. Now it's up to 200,000. Oh, I didn't think. Is there mud? Clear, clear, clear in all zones. Excellent. It is still only the second week of August, but you know, I don't know what to expect with this random weather. Oh, Lord. Just in this part of the map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Partisans are liking this beautiful August weather, and they have come out in droves. We'll take a quick peek before I step aside and start moves and attacks. What it looks like. I thought I'd have a nice success here. Look at that. That is really annoying. Really no changes along the front here. No pressure anywhere. Just disappointment. A missed opportunity. I played that wrong. I should have anticipated by having that amount of forces to the north of the Soviets and that far east. It really spooked them and triggered a full-scale withdrawal. We'll have to see what we can do about this, if we can make anything out of it. I'm not sure we can, but we may try. Rather than try to force something out of nothing, we may just finally get another Panzer Corps down to this area of operations where we could have some success, like sudden success, once we tip the scales, combat power wise. These forces that were extended are now grouped up along, what is this river? The Vessel. All right. Yet another river to get over. We might just have a spearhead here at the heart of Kharkov and get some territorial gain. I really want to still focus on destroying Soviet formations, but if we could get Belgorod, Kharkov, that would be good. I will be back after conducting moves and attacks.
All right, I'm back. Moves and attacks are complete. I did have a audio input gaffe where it was picking up the background noise of my new desktop PC. So I'm using a headset now. So what happened is you're not going to see the second Soviets turn execution and the effects on planning and some missed opportunities that resulted from that. So let's get a situation report now. It is the third week of August. There was no change here. This is what we're looking at now is the beginning of a new German turn, and I haven't done any moves yet. Well, some preliminary ones, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So nothing to report here. Same here around Pskov. I will more than likely attack around Pskov. Nothing happened along the sector of front from Pskov to Veliky Luki, just moving adjacent and holding the line. South of Veliky Luki, same can be said. German forces holding the line, got a main line of resistance here. Don't see much threat from the Soviets from really Smolensk all the way to Pskov. And looking around Smolensk, we still have the 57th Panzer Corps that remained in place last turn, resupplying, refitting, and resting. We dressed our lines with our infantry divisions, reassigned divisions to Army Corps to make it a little more organized. And the front from Smolensk to Bryansk, no change there. Did the Soviets make some attacks? No, they did not along that front. We're pretty strong and only getting stronger as we continue to dig in. And the Soviets have shifted the bulk of their forces really to the south. Armory Group Center is not facing that massive buildup of Soviets. They have now dispersed to go to other sectors. So south of Bryansk, still the same. Germans holding the line, forming a defensive line here. The Italians bolstering the German divisions in these positions. And what really happened around Sumy, we now are much more organized. We took out all the clumps of formations and German divisions and Panzer Corps that had built up here as we had shifted south from the earlier main axis of attack in Army Group Center's area of operations. I don't believe we captured this yet, and it was probably on the video that I had to dispose of that was picking up the background noise. But what's looking like now is that we missed an opportunity with the Soviets that were poised over the Sula that felt the pressure from a breakthrough just south of Sumy. Soviets recognized that, really used some adaptive and flexible and quick reaction command and control to get almost all of their divisions out of harm's way, which was really a disappointment. We thought we had something brewing to get a major encirclement, but now it looks like the Soviets got wind of that and have now positioned strong forces at the tip of the axis of advance of our German panzer divisions. Meanwhile, keeping some forces to hold the east bank of the Hustle River, which might lead to us being able to encircle these formations. It's going to be difficult to extract these panzer divisions and reroute them to maybe cut off Soviet forces west of Poltava. I believe we're going to drive on and try to break through here. We do have 4 Panzer Corps and very strong infantry divisions to achieve that, with the hopes of still getting a larger encirclement. Soviets made a few attacks, not ominous attacks, on the northern flank of this advance, so we still have to be mindful of that. The hope is to break through this portion of the front. We have here 2 Panzer Corps and a brigade, so 3 tank formations of the Soviets. And we did aerial recon. This is kind of the local reserve we might run into, a second layer of defense. And here, no change. The Soviets holding the line still on this river, and we still have yet to move almost all of our forces here. We did move up a couple of divisions just to get an idea of the shape of the Soviet front now that they have withdrawn. Here's some news. I did some attacks here. I have yet to commit the 36 Panzer Corps. The work, oh, did I commit one of them just yet? Yes. I did commit the 25th Motorized Division from the 36 Panzer Corps to get a bridgehead and extend it over here, over the Ingulets, the northern part of the Ingulets. So now we are threatening to unhinge the Soviets along this entire front with a fresh, strong Panzer Corps. This is some preliminary work we did, pushing back the Soviets and getting a nice corridor where these panzer divisions will not have to go through Soviet zone of control. So we have a nice 10-mile wide gap for the panzers to move unhindered. The thought is one of 2 courses of action. We threaten Dnipropetrovsk get to the west bank of the Dnieper and maybe even cross it to get a large encirclement of these forces. We don't have very much supporting infantry to support these two Panzer Corps, the 36th and the 3rd. I'm thinking of railing down the 24th Panzer Corps to the exact spot where we move down to 36, so we'll have 3 Panzer Corps working in tandem, and that will give us some really good combat power to exploit where the Soviets really haven't been threatened and are kind of comfortable in this sector. Now, it looks like there's more of a threat to them. Unfortunately, as usual, the Soviets are building up operational reserves, endless supply of troops to bring in these two cities here, which could affect the success of pulling off an encirclement. Soviets retaliated a little bit against the Romanians and are still very strong. We will continue to attack with 11th Army to get some local gains and to disrupt, fragment the front as best as possible, which might eventually lead to greater opportunities for us down the road. And that is the summary. Apologize again for missing the greater part of some moves and the Soviets' last turn, where they artfully got out of harm's way and making it much more difficult to get any encirclement here. Looking forward for the next weeks to come, we at the best have 4 more solid ground clear weather turns. We're going to be into September very shortly, and then we can expect mud to appear. It's been a little bit since I looked at the random weather table and the odds for us getting mud or snow in September. I'll have to take a look at that, and we have to be mindful of that as we plan for future operations, future offensives. Looking back a couple videos ago and planning for future ops back then, we wanted to get more smaller encirclements just to take chunks out of the Soviet army, reduce their numbers, and make it easier for future offensives, but also get our Panzer Corps into position, a much better position than they were in 1942. And I think I think that is shaping up to the way it will look like in 1943. We have the 30th Panzer Corps, the 57th Panzer Corps. Oh boy, and this is the 56th Panzer that's been all alone since we started the offensive in the east. So there more than likely will just only be one Panzer Corps assigned to Army Group North at the start of 1943. And we will have, I'm planning now to have 3 Panzer Corps assigned to this area of operations for Army Group South. That leaves us 4 Panzer Corps in this kind of boundary area between Army Group South and Army Group Center, which is the Kharkov sector, Kursk, and this open ground where we're hoping to get a greater encirclement and destroy Soviet forces. Hopefully to have much better success in 1943 than we did in 1942. But then again, there's no predicting what kind of weather we're going to get as the winter of 1942-1943 starts to close and we get into spring. Nonetheless, our Panzer Corps and our infantry will be in better attack positions and ready to go on to the offensive in a more advantageous way than in 1942. And that is about it. I'm going to end the video here. Just taking a look, the grand picture. Soviets have so many divisions that they can just have this elongated front and just not break, just continue to, like an unbreaking elastic, just throw forces in front of wherever the Germans are making advances. Here we're taking a little window of opportunity before the Soviets can rush forces in, so we'll try to capitalize on that. And I think we have the combat power to at least threaten the Soviets further and make them pull back and get some territorial gains. Maybe take Kharkov even. And definitely, with the pressure to the north here on the east bank of the Dnieper, I expect the Soviets to start to pull back, so we may take 3 major cities before 1942 closes out. And that's about it. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's getting more and more interesting, and it looks like the war in the East will be determined in 1943. Thank you for watching. This is First Fire, non-assault move out.